Hello, welcome to another video from Zoid's YouTube channel. That's me, Zoid's YouTube channel. That's my name. Anyways, today a video on how to create tension and release in techno music. How the great classic tracks have done it, how you can do it. Being a lifelong student of jazz and how tension and release is created with harmony and melody, it's very different from how techno does it, which is mainly through rhythm and timbre. My favorite DJs are really good at doing it, putting tracks together in a way that increases this sense of tension building track after track, and it really goes somewhere. And then, there's moments where it releases tension in super satisfying ways. The drop, some people call it, but we didn't used to call it that. As a technique in music that is kind of overdone in EDM, I'm not that interested. The classic techno and Robert Hood and Jeff Mills and stuff like that, Acid Jesus, Joey Beltram. Well, these tracks, we'll take a listen to a few of them and see what kind of devices they're using. So first of all, let me just say I do have a membership that's open. People are joining. We've got members in America, in UK, in Ireland, and have a look at it. Join, link in the description. It's a lot of good stuff in there. You get access to all my courses if you join the membership. And you get live coaching calls every month, and there's weekly calls as well that you can join and do some music production and get some inspiration and structure into your practice. If that sounds like something that you would like to do, check it out. To me, in techno music, there are the elements like the kick drum and the snare on 2 and 4 and the closed hi-hats on the offbeats. The kind of beat. And those elements are not really producing any tension on their own, but tension is created by taking them away and putting them back in as the release. So if you have no other elements other than those in your track, you can't create any tension when you take them away. There's nothing. Yeah, I suppose some tension is created, you take it away, there's nothing and you're waiting for it to come back in, but it's boring. So how do you create tension? It's by having elements that sit in between those elements. So syncopated bass lines, chords, things that are in the cracks in between those things, and it creates a really interesting and cool whole. And then if you take out the bass drum in a track where it makes you lose all sense of where that pulse is, that creates a lot of tension. I don't really know when it's coming back or where it goes. And then when it comes back in, you kind of have a sense of it's going to come back in, it's going to come back in. When it does come back in, it's incredibly effective and powerful. And that is what I want to kind of delve into more in this video. So we'll take a look at some classic examples of it. And we will also try and recreate something interesting to see what I'm talking about. How's that sound? All right, let's jump in. Ooh, okay. After an hour of OBS not working, I found a workaround. OBS on Mac is very annoying. It doesn't work. Okay, so 3 classic techno tracks. Let's see how they increase tension. Robert Hood, The Grey Area is like a 13-minute long track. 1997, Sven Väth opened with this track on his BBC One Essential Mix. The mix me and my friends taped and listened to hundreds of times. This is just a brilliant 2 hours of techno electro at the end. It's just a brilliant, brilliant mix. It's opened with this track, 13 minutes long. It's such a brilliant track. The intro. Now the backwards kind of 909 open hats and the toms, boom, ba-dum, it's creating this really interesting rhythm where you really don't know where the bass drum is going to come in. You try and feel where the bass drum is there. You can't. than those beautiful pads, and it's just like, whoa, you're in this incredibly weird, familiar and yet unfamiliar territory. It's just like, wow. So we won't listen to the whole track, but skipping on a bit. Finally, the bass drum comes in there around 1.5 minutes in, and you've got these, like, you know, the closed hi-hat 16th note pattern is in, and then the synth line, which is in some other polymeter 5 or 7. Yeah, I can't even really work it out. I think it's a 5-beat pattern repeating. So then all the main elements are in there. Timbre is changing, the tension is held, sustained. Elements drop out. You're just held in that state where there's no really build, and that's a lot of techno just does that, just holds you there in this groove, and you're just there, and then elements come in and drop out. Pad, just a held chord. When that comes back in again, you're like, some kind of release there. So these elements are so interesting that they can last for a really long time. You don't get bored. The timbre changes of the main synth line, and it's like, you know, you're 7 minutes in. And then builds back up. And then, like, after 8.5 minutes, then you get this more percussion coming in. Ride cymbal. And there's no break in the track, essentially. Oh, there is here. After 10 minutes in, the bass drum drops out. And again, you're just floating there without really knowing. So the synth line is does it start on the one? It is just 1 bar long. It is a 1 bar sequence. So it is like 16 beats long, but it's like da 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 da. So 5, 5, 6 adds up to 16. Pretty long break there, minute long. And then bass drum comes back in for a release at the end of the track. And something interesting at the very end of this track. Changes completely, and I always used to think that this was an amazing mix that Sven Väth did. He mixed that into another track, but he actually does an amazing mix out into another track. I can't remember what it was, but it's like the Robert Hood track turns into a different track and then he mixes it out. Sven Väth plays the 13 minutes of this track at the start of his set. Something I want to talk about is the kick drum, the bass drum, mainly on 1, 2, 3, and 4, is only creating a groove in relation to the other things, like the toms here, the low toms. It's creating a pattern, the two things together, the bass drum and the low tom. The low tom is on. It's on the and of 1 and the E of 2, the last 16 out of 2. So it creates this really cool pattern. There's loads of examples of cool bass drum low tom patterns, where it's only groovy because of the thing that's not on the 1, 2, 3, 4. And then right at the end of the track, when it starts fading away, you hear right at the end, when you hear it starting to fade away, you hear the first closed hat, open hat pattern, which is not in the track at all, in any other part of the track. Weird. I only noticed that this time. I've listened to that track loads of times, but never noticed that. Okay, so that is just a masterful, legendary example of sustained tension and being taken away and put back in, and it's just a lot of genius stuff in there. Okay, so next track, I want to play this Acid Jesus Interstate, which is another favorite. Now, there's 3 things going on here, but it sounds like only 2. But what we have is we've got a bass drum and a bass together, which the bass drum is bass drum is on 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the bass part boom, 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 is on very hard to hear. I should put them through a filter to hear what's happening just in the bass. But boom, 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 boom. The bass and the bass drum together it's a great example of, in techno, the parts linking together into the new thing, where it's hard to even pick them apart in your ear. Because you got the higher sound that's on the ba, ga. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 1, 2, ga, ga. It's on the last 16 note of 2 and the first 16 note of 4. 1, 2, ga, ga. 1, 2, ga, ga. So you got dunk, gunk, gunk, ga-dunk, gung, gunk, 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 ga-dunk, gung, and you got the higher part. 1, 2, ga, ga. So that means that, yeah, they both link up on the first 16th note after 4. Dunk, gunk, gunk, ga-dunk, gung, gunk, 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 ga-dunk. Is there anything actually happening on 4? Yes, there's a bass drum on 4. Bunk, gunk, gunk, ga-dunk, ga-dunk, gunk, 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 ga-dunk, gung, gunk, 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 ga-dunk, gung. And that's the 1-bar loop of the track. The elements adding together to create this very strong rhythm, all mixed together. That's a great example. Then super swinging hi-hats come in. Some variations kick in and you start to hear a kind of a noise rising in the background. And then you start to hear the bass notes come more to the forefront. Part just locking you into the groove with not really any tension building. And then the noise, that timbre, is like really building tension. Okay, and then 4 minutes in, that's really building that noise, and then everything drops out. You're there. You don't know when the beat's going to come back in. And then drops back in. So not that long of a break, but it's just the beats are gone. Where are they gone? And you're waiting for them to come back in. That's a moment where you know something's going to happen, but you don't know when. So there's tension in it, and then they come back in and you're locked back in. Few more variations and you're mixing it as an absolute weapon, that track. So Acid Jesus is of course alter ego. Roman Flugel and Jorn Elling Wutka. Yeah, really good stuff. So the last track that I want to talk about is Joey Beltram Drome on Warp on the Calibre EP. Starts off with this blistering 909 kick drum and then kind of a stabby sound on bump, 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 bump. It's on the last 16th note before 2 and the first 16th note after 2. Bump, 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 bump. So then again, it's the example of the kick drum plus that making something new. Joey Beltram, master of the simple interlocking rhythms that make something great. So the snares coming in on those 16 notes as well. And then everything except the bass drum is not, only the bass drum is on 1, 2, 3, and 4 there. Everything else is on very syncopated 16th notes, the offbeats. The hi-hat's on the 8th note offbeats, and everything else is like accentuating the more syncopated last 16th or first 16th. 16ths, in case you're not familiar with the terminology, is when there's 4 divisions for every beat. The bass drum's on 1, 2, 3, 4. The hi-hats are on 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 on the ands. 1, The 16th notes. If he's got the last one. Oh, I'm doing it wrong. If you take away the bass drum and you just hear the you can't even hear they're on the 16th notes, because it will just sound like it's on 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and it's only in relation to the bass drum that you hear that it's not actually on 1 and 2 and it's on 1 2 1 2 1 2. I can't even do it. It's too hard. 1 2 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2. Yeah, it's really hard to clap and sing that, which is why it's so great. Da 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 da. And it's building up the whole time with other sounds and the timbres. And he's really building off of that initial bong 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 bong. That sound, other sounds coming in on those hits as well, accentuating it more. That clap on 2 and 4 just anchoring it down. So the bass drum and the hi-hat and the clap is like anchoring, but everything else is off it on the staccato 16th, or not staccato, syncopated 16th. And it's building to this. Beautiful arpeggio line, just like, wow, amazing. And just beautiful singing those 2 chords back and forth. And then the break. You don't know where the bass drum is now, because you're hearing dun 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 dun. You can kind of hear it in where the start of the arpeggio is. So you kind of do feel where the bass drum is going to come back in on that one. If the arpeggio wasn't there, you wouldn't, but the arpeggio is giving you that time, so you can kind of follow it, but it's not super clear or easy. So this, whether something's easy or not, is part of the tension. Can you hear where the beat is, where it's coming back in, or is it your brain is kind of trying to hear the pattern, but it can't exactly hear, but it sort of can? This is tension and release. This is important stuff. If everything is easy, like someone suggested a dead mouse, whatever. How you ever say that? Oh, my dogs are barking. Okay, right. Better go. Okay, here we go. Finishing this. Another break. That time there was a clear hi-hat marking out the time there that you could follow it easily. Even that little tiny break there is like, oh, when the bass drum goes away, the rhythm is... It's just beats to mix out. So that's Joey Beltram Drome, 3 examples there, and that is the video for today. So I didn't get around to making my own example, but another time I'll do that. So I hope you enjoyed that, and what do you think are the best examples of tension rising and falling? Let me know.